How's it going, everybody? It's Gomedex back again with another War of the Spark Omniscience Draft. Omniscience Draft is the format in which every spell that you cast is completely free. However, you only draw 3 cards in your starting hand instead of 7, so that things don't go as dramatically insane, but things still go pretty insane. It's pretty much Solitaire-style, Yu-Gi-Oh! Style format in which there's a lot of turn 1 kills versus each other. You want to draft cards that let you draw additional cards very highly, because if you can chain them together for free, you could essentially draw out most of your deck and just kill your opponent immediately. And then the second thing you want to pick up is just cards that are really powerful. Just take the highest power level of card regardless of mana cost, because all of the mana costs are completely irrelevant. Everything is free. So I'm probably going to take God Eternal Kefnet here. I mean, it's a sick bomb in the regular format. It's not as ridiculously insane here, I think, just because killing somebody in one turn is such a thing, and Kefnet doesn't really aid to that. But he does really help you if you make it around to your next turn. Being able to copy your instants and sorceries whenever you draw them is pretty nice. You get to get additional value out of him, so it's kind of like drawing some cards. And he's just a sick mythic that's great for constructed that I want to have in my collection. So the best card in this pack probably for this format is actually probably just Heartwarming Redemption, because it lets you just redraw your hand in case you just have like some useless cards. Redraw your hand, try to draw into some of your draw spells. But I think God Eternal Kefnet is at least as strong, so if Kefnet weren't in the pack, probably would take the Heartwarming Redemption, but he's in here, so we'll start with the God Eternal Kefnet. In this pack, we do have a very good card for this format. It's Elite Guard Mage. So it's a 2/3 flying. When it enters the battlefield, gain 3 life and draw a card. So anything that draws you 1 card lets you just sift through cards in your deck, just go to the next thing. So this is going to be a 2/3 on the board while still giving you another card, so you get to play even more cards that turn. So Elite Guard Mage, quite a good card in this format. And nothing else here says draw a card on it. Except for this card, which is nowhere near as good. Most of the time that you cast a Blind Blast, it's just going to be to cycle it just to draw that card. Whereas Elite Guard Mage, the body that you get out of it is actually just a relevant creature that could damage your opponent in the coming turns. Let's see what we got here. There is a Davriel's Shadow Fugue, which has a lot of potential if you manage to play it on turn 1. Against your opponent. It's also, decent at specific times later in the game. The only problem that I have with it is cards like this I usually find myself drawing in situations where my opponent has played everything, and that's actually pretty often in Omniscience Draft. Because everything is free, there's going to be very few times that they'll want to hold cards in their hand. Usually they're just going to be casting absolutely everything, so if you don't get this on turn 1, most of the time they probably don't have any cards for you to discard with that. So it is insanely powerful if you get it on turn 1, though, because they go from a 3-card hand to a 1-card hand. Everything else in here isn't that insane. Turd Ogre's nice because it's a way to damage your opponent with haste without having to attack with your creatures. That way, if you get yourself into a situation where you've somehow drawn a million cards, you might be able to kill your opponent without them even untapping, so that's pretty cool. And other than that, just a bunch of random creatures, and maybe an Ashiok. This format, as I've said before, you draw just millions and millions of cards, so it is possible you could mill your opponent with this. I do think it's probably just too slow. But I did have a game or two in my last Omniscience Draft that I was like, Ashiok wouldn't be the worst thing in the world right now. It could actually put in some work. Lazotep Plating could be okay as well. It counters an opponent's Davriel's Shadow Fugue, or it counters their removal spells. But again, nothing in here is insanely exciting for this format. I do want to make sure to pick up instants and sorceries to go with God Eternal Kefnet. Maybe we just want No Escape just as a answer to our opponent's Kioras or Lilianas or any kind of planeswalkers that can draw them cards. Yeah, I guess I'll go with No Escape here. No Escape, another card great in the regular format. It's probably pretty good in Omniscience Draft as well. So here we have... Bond of Discipline can just kill your opponent. If you've both gotten to a situation where you just have a ton of creatures on the board and neither of you wants to swing in, Bond of Discipline's just like, alright, your creatures are all tapped, I'm just going to kill you now. However, it doesn't draw a card, whereas Topple the Statue does draw a card, so I probably want Topple the Statue. Yeah, we'll take a Topple the Statue. The other notable cards, or the most notable cards in my opinion, are Bond of Discipline, for those situations where you both have just played a bunch of free giant creatures and don't really have a way to hit each other. Spark Harvest, just as a way to deal with a creature, Planeswalker that's scaring you. Teferi's Time Twist to redo one of your enter the battlefield effects, like an elite guard mage. But I'm going to just take Topple the Statue here. Go with the simple pick. So there is a God Pharaoh statue here, and I did get a question on my last video if this works in Omniscience Draft, and it does. Because it is a taxing kind of effect, your opponent will choose to play their spell for the alternate cost of 0, and then they'll put it on the stack, and it'll say you gotta pay 2 in addition to your alternate cost of 0. So if you have a God Pharaoh statue out, it's not insane in this format, just because it doesn't completely stop them from playing stuff, because they do get 5 mana a turn out of the emblem. I forgot to say that. Once per turn, you can get white, blue, black, red, green, 1 mana of each color into your mana pool with the Omniscience emblem to pay for random stuff like this. So your opponent can still play 2 spells per turn if you have God Pharaoh's statue out, but it does stop your opponent from just chaining draw spells indefinitely and really getting there. The biggest problem with this card, though, is the fact that Topple the Statue exists, and because it's a card that's instant speed and says draw a card on it, people will take this card very, very highly in this format. So God Pharaoh's statue potentially can stop your opponent from chaining a bunch of cards in one turn, but it could also just give them a lot of value if they have Topple the Statues to just destroy that thing and draw a card. So I'm gonna actually just go with a Contentious Plan here. It's a cantrip that you can cast. You don't even need anything to be on the board. Defiant Strike, there has to be a creature on the board to cast this. Contentious Plan, you can just cast this on an empty board. And even better, on a board with some cards on it, you can proliferate onto your Planeswalkers some more loyalty counters. So we're going to go with a Contentious Plan here. Next up, we do have a Dovin's Veto, which might be okay in this format. It does counter opponents' Tamiyo's Epiphanies, or anything like that that's going to draw multiple cards. Tamiyo's Epiphany, definitely the most noteworthy one, because it is a common, so you'll see a lot of that. 1 blue, 3 colorless, scry 4, then draw 2 cards. Very, very good in this format. Dovin's Veto can just stop them from drawing a bunch of cards. And to be fair, there's nothing else in this pack that's that insanely exciting. I mean, there is Honor the God Pharaoh. That actually is pretty exciting. Because in this format, because you're playing a 40-card deck and you don't need to play any lands, you will be drafting a deck that ends up with a total of 42 cards when you're done with the draft. So you only get to cut 2 cards out of your deck. So it's very likely that you're going to end up with some random cards that aren't very good, that are just fine to discard to a card like Honor the God Pharaoh to draw some more cards and try to get to your good stuff. So Honor the God Pharaoh, definitely very notable. It's definitely between Dovin's Veto and Honor the God Pharaoh. I'm going to go with the Honor the God Pharaoh here. We're going to be a little less defensive and more proactive on that pick. More just trying to kill our opponents ourselves. And then here, a pretty easy choice. Another Honor the God Pharaoh is the only card that draws cards in here, so it is the card that we will take. Alright, nothing that draws cards in here, so now we just get to pick whatever our favorite card in this pack is, basically. We can take Sarkhan's Catharsis. If you end up with a deck with enough Sarkhan's Catharsis and enough draw power, you can use all of them to just kill your opponent, try to kill him in one turn. We could also just take a Ward Scale Crocodile. This card's good because your opponent can't have any kind of answers to it. It does only have 3 toughness, so if they're playing a decent amount of creatures, it's probably not going to do a whole lot. But it also triggers your Kioras if you manage to draft Kiora. Kiora is a very good card in this format, simply because she lets you draw cards while you're casting your big creatures, so it turns all of your creatures like your Ward Scale Crocodiles into just completely free. It's as if you just had a 5/3 on the board at the start of that turn, because you immediately draw something else to play that turn as well. So yeah. You can also, if you draft well enough, loop all of your 4 power or greater creatures and just draw a million cards that way. So we could pick the Ward Scale Crocodile and hope for the Tamiyo in the future. We could take Sarkhan's Catharsis and try to just burn our opponent's face to death. Sarkhan's Catharsis does go pretty well with God Eternal Kefnet as well, and Sarkhan's Catharsis can deal with Planeswalkers on your opponent's side of the field. Like, if they have a Kiora and they cast a creature, you can respond by instant speed Sarkhan's Catharsis, just kill the Kiora before they start chaining and drawing a bunch of cards. So, I think I just talked myself into taking Sarkhan's Catharsis, so let's go with that. Just because it does double as a way to deal with opponent's Planeswalkers. And here we will take the Heartwarming Redemption. We did manage to wheel that out of the pack with the God Eternal Kefnet, so we got both of the cards that we wanted out of the pack, so that's very nice. Here we can take the random little cantrip with the Blind Blast or a No Escape, and now that we have a Sarkhan's Catharsis and a No Escape, we've got 2 different answers for Planeswalkers, so I think I'm okay just taking the Blind Blast as a cantrip and get some No Escapes later. Cantrip, for those who don't know, is just magic terminology for a spell that says draw a card in addition to whatever its effect is. So here we can take a Behemoth just as a big creature. We can take a Teo's Light Shield because we can proliferate onto it. I probably wouldn't do that. If I'm taking a creature out of here, it's going to be Behemoth, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to take Davriel's Shadow Fugue for the potential turn 1 plays with that card. And here's where we're getting the cards that are just really bad in this format, stuff that we definitely want to discard to our Heartwarming Redemptions and honor the God Pharaohs. So we just have a 2/2 that proliferates when it dies. Kaya's Ghost form could potentially save one of our Planeswalkers one time, but that's not that good in a format where everyone's casting a whole bunch of stuff. And our Boreal Grazer, which is literally just a 0/3 for reach, because you don't play any lands in this format, so I guess I'm going with the 2/2 that can proliferate. And now we have actually a pretty interesting pick. We could take Defiant Strike as a cantrip, or Sarkhan's Catharsis. Kind of nice to get 2 cards that are pretty relevant in this format this late. The only problem is I have to choose one, so that makes the 2 cards left in the pack both viable, so actually have to choose something here. I'm going to go ahead and... we do have one... let's take another Catharsis. I want to see if I can kill someone on turn 1 with 4 Sarkhan's Catharsis today. I think that'll be the plan. And our last pick is a Teo's Light Shield, which is just awful. Alright, so what do we got here? Karn, the Great Creator. He's a 5 loyalty Planeswalker, +1 until your next turn, 1 non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its mana cost. And -2, choose an artifact you own from outside the game, or in exile, reveal it and put it into your hand. So that is completely useless in this format. Unless we somehow got really, really lucky to where we draft like multiple good artifacts, and then we just have those be the 2 cards in our sideboard, or just 2 good artifacts to pull out with Karn, to then play and then next turn turn them into a creature. Like if we get a Godpharaoh statue and Karn, we could put like 2 Godpharaoh statue in our sideboard so that we can cast Karn, pick up a Godpharaoh statue from the sideboard, cast the Godpharaoh statue, and then next turn uses +1 to make it a 6/6. That's just a lot of hoops to jump through. It just does not seem that good. However, there's not a lot of good stuff in this pack. There's stuff that's definitely good in the format when you can't cast everything for free, but when you can cast everything here for free, none of this is that high impact. I guess I'll just take a Spark Reaper. It does actually cost us some mana, but it is a cantrip that could potentially be multiple cantrips over the game. So if we get some things like Saheeli Rai that makes a 1/1 servo whenever we cast a non-creature spell. If we just get anything that creates a bunch of little creature tokens, even just these random amasses off of Honor the God Pharaoh, this will let us use our 5 mana per turn to sack one of those creatures to draw another card. So Spark Reaper could actually be pretty good here, so I'm going to take the Spark Reaper. It is also worth noting, I would not put it past anybody to take this card and just rare draft it. Omniscience Draft is just a stupid, fun, solitaire, Yu-Gi-Oh! Style format. It is not the big leagues, so Karn the Great Creator is like probably just the best pick, just for value reasons. You know what? Yeah, let's send a message. We're gonna take Karn the Great Creator and have it for our collection. Hopefully we can wheel that Spark Reaper. If not, that will be a little unfortunate. But, hey, if nothing else, if we lose every game, we got a Karn. So that's cool. Here is a Vivian's Arcbow. So, X mana, tap, discard a card, look at the top X cards of your library. You may put a creature card with a converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. This is probably not the greatest. We do have 5 mana per turn to play around with. So this can get any creature that costs 5 or less from our deck. That's essentially like a like another draw spell there. But we do have to discard a card to do it as well. Yeah, this doesn't seem great. So it'll be tap this, discard a card, look at the top 5 cards of our library, and pick a creature with converted mana cost 5 or less, put it on the battlefield. Actually just not that impressive in this format, since you could just cast the creatures for free anyway. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to take Vivian's Arcbow here. I think I'm going to take another Sarkhan's Catharsis, unless there's anything that draws a card, which it doesn't look like there is. Yep, just take another Sarkhan's Catharsis. Let's go. Alright, some interesting good cards here. There's a single combat. Each player chooses a creature or planeswalker they control, then sacks the rest. Players can't cast creature or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn. This is a weird card, both in regular draft and in Omniscience Draft. I think the fact that it stops you longer than it stops your opponent means that there's going to be very few ways to make this go really in your favor. I don't think I'm going to take single combat here. I do think that I'm very interested in taking Augur of Bolas. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal an instant or sorcery from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on bottom. This is obviously very good if you have some powerful instants and sorceries, or just a lot of them. And while we don't have any really, really good instants or sorceries, we do have a lot. So this will consistently draw us a card. It's that, or like Defiant Strike will always draw us a card, but we do have to be able to target a creature with it. I think I will just take an Augur of Bolas. Alright. This pack is not very exciting. I think now is the time we'll have to start taking just some random big creatures so we have some way to end the game. Because right now we just have triple Sarkhan's Catharsis. It's not a huge way to end the game. We might just want some random creatures like Ceratok in here at this point. When we get packs that are pretty empty, like this one. There's a Gideon's Triumph, which makes our opponent sacrifice a creature that attacked or blocked this turn. It's usually not the greatest, because usually your opponent's just going to have a whole lot of creatures out, so that's pretty insignificant. Jang Yangu is very insignificant. Just put a +1/+1 counter on a creature once per turn. Since you can cast spells for free, you don't really need that extra mana. La Rune Enforcer just basically stops a creature. Toll of the Invasion does stop one card. This is also pretty good on turn 1. This might be better than Davriel's Shadow Fugue on turn 1, because Davriel's Shadow Fugue, while it does make them discard 2 cards, if they have 3 cards in hand and they have 1 Tamiyo's Epiphany and then 2 random dorks like a Ceratok, being able to just get rid of the Tamiyo's Epiphany is probably stronger than just making them discard the 2 random dorks. So I am actually just going to take Toll of the Invasion in that pack. Alright. We do have another Toll of the Invasion, which we could take for the same reasons that we took the last one, or we can just take this 3/3 with a million abilities, just as a fine creature to try to poke our opponent. That's pretty much it. Everything else in here is just strictly weaker than this Angel. So, I mean, Vivian's Grizzly could potentially draw some cards, but most of our deck is just instants and sorceries, so that's not going to happen too often. So I think I'll just take another Toll of the Invasion. Here we have... Topple the Statue draws us a card. Honor the God Pharaoh lets us draw 2 cards after discarding 1. I think I will take the Honor the God Pharaoh here. There is a Dovin's Veto, or just a cantrip with the Defiant Strike. We are in pack 2, so I do have one more pack to try to pick up a Sarkhan's Catharsis. To try to just play cantrips till we go through our whole deck and Sarkhan's Catharsis our opponent. So I'll just take the cantrip there. Defiant Strike it is. Guild Globe is a cantrip, lets us draw a card when we play it, so I'll pick up that Guild Globe. And you know what? I think this pack is weak enough that I will go ahead and take the God Pharaoh statue just to show it off. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure with my luck I'm just going to get Topple the Statue all the time, but we'll see. At least that's an absolute flavor win, at the very least. They're going to literally topple the God Pharaoh statue. So yeah, it's that or a random creature. I'm going to take the statue. And because we have the statue, we could throw Karn into the deck. The reason that you would do that, if you have both, there's like no reason not to. Because it essentially makes it so that if I just had God Pharaoh statue in this deck instead, then whenever I drew God Pharaoh statue, I would literally just play God Pharaoh statue. If I have Karn, then whenever I draw Karn, I get to play Karn and grab God Pharaoh statue. So it's like just a slightly better board state because I'll have that +1 that I could try to use to make it a 6/6 if I want to in the next turn. There's just very little downside. The only downside is they could like no escape my Karn. Whereas the upside could be pretty neat. In just being able to have 2 cards for the price of 1. Alright, this pack, very weak. We don't really have enough creatures to do anything with Huatli, so it's just going to be the creature here. We're going to take the Ward Scale Crocodile, the Gold Hexproofer, and we'll take a cantrip with a Defiant Strike. And then this pack is very bad. We can take a 2/2 or 1 random combat trick. None of these 3 cards are anything you remotely want. I will go ahead and take the 2/2, just because it gives us more creatures, more permanents to be able to have on the battlefield, just to make sure we'll always be able to cast our Defiant Strikes and our Topple the Statues to draw cards, and our Blind Blast as well. And here we will take the 2/2 over the 1/1, and last pick, Topple the Statue. So let's hope that means that our opponents didn't get many of those. So no Tamiyo's Epiphanies in here yet again, but there is a Saheeli, which has a lot of potential, especially in a deck that doesn't have a whole lot of endgame in it. Doesn't have a lot of super powerful cards to end the game. Saheeli is one right there, because now when we're randomly playing all our Topple the Statue type cantrips, we're making servos. So I think I'm going to want to take Saheeli here. However, there's also a Tolsimir Friend to Wolves, and it is really unfortunate to have to pass up on him. But I actually think that Saheeli's just better in this format. But yeah, Tolsimir is a 3/3 that comes with another 3/3, so 2 3/3s. And whenever a wolf enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life, and it fights a creature you don't control. So yeah, it's a cool card, definitely pretty good in regular limited, but Saheeli I think is just very degenerate in this format specifically. There's also a Topple the Statue, definitely going to hope that that wheels.
I love a good challenge. This should be fun.
Alright, so here we have a Rescuer Sphinx, which is pretty interesting. If we have any permanents that draw a card when we play them, we can bounce them back and draw another card. So we do have an Augur of Bolas, a Guild Globe, a Elite Guard Mage. So that's it. I mean, we only have 3, but the potential is high. For, like, when we're casting those, it's going to be pretty strong. I think the fact that we only have 3 cards that, like, really benefit off this makes me a little less excited about that. I probably just want to take the straight-up cantrip and just go for Saheeli shenanigans. So yeah, we'll just take a Blind Blast here. Alright, there's another Godpharaoh statue. So I could have that scenario I was talking about where I have a card and 2 Godpharaoh statue in the sideboard. However, Godpharaoh statue is legendary, so that's not anywhere near as cool as it could be. It's just we could have a backup Godpharaoh statue if the first one gets toppled, but I assume the second one will probably get toppled too. We could also just main deck a Godpharaoh statue and sideboard a Godpharaoh statue for Karn shenanigans. Or we could just take the cantrip, just take the Blind Blast, make sure that we're comboing off with this Healy. I'm going to take a Blind Blast here, just the little cantrip. Bond of Revival has potential, but I don't think I have any way to mill myself. So it's actually not very good in my deck. But it would be pretty good with like the 4/5 guy that draws a card when he enters the battlefield. Which, speak of the devil, we've seen 0 Tamiyo's Epiphanies and 0 of the 4/5 when he enters the battlefield you lose a life and draw a card. At least I think we've seen 0. I could have had Temporary Blindness that just has ruined this draft for me, but those are my favorite commons in this format. I think they're by far the strongest for Omniscience draft of War of the Spark, and we haven't seen any, so that's pretty rough. At least I think we haven't seen any. So I think here, take a Thunder Drake just as a threat, or just take a Totally Lost. Totally Lost can put like one of our cards on top if we want to just cantrip off of it again, or it can deal with an opponent's threat temporarily, so I will go ahead and take the Totally Lost. And here we have... we have a Topple the Statue to draw a card, so I guess it'll just be that. Oh man, yeah, this deck's gonna end like a pretty do-nothing deck. We didn't even get the 4th Catharsis. I do think that we probably saw 4 at some point in the draft, and one of them just got taken. So, none of these cards... oh wait, no, Guild Globe does draw a card. We'll go with the Guild Globe then. Like, now we're just cantripping into basically nothing. We're just gonna keep cantripping until we play, like, a Crocodile. We've got, like, the one Saheeli. This is the problem with the taking all of the draw spells route, is that, you know, sometimes you just get pretty unlucky and it doesn't really pay off. We didn't even get any of the really strong draw spells in the first place, unfortunately. So, what do we got here? None of these cards draw a card, so I'll take the Spookiest Creature. I guess I'll take Goblin Assault Team, because it can potentially just damage our opponent immediately. And here's pick 8, our last chance for Tamiyo's Epiphany or Kiora, or the 4/5 that draws a card when it enters the battlefield. We've got none of those, so this is looking bad. I'm going to take the 7/6 here. I just need more large creatures to randomly draw into, and here we'll take Topple the Statue. Here we will take something bad. We'll take the 2/2 Death Touch in this pack. Another pack with not a lot going on. I guess I'll take the Flyer in this one. I don't feel like Rising Populace is going to get much bigger too often. And we don't care too much about toughness with the Crovod. I think we care about flying more, so I'll take the Silverwing. And then... wow. Operative can potentially get past a lot of our opponent's large creatures, but I suspect they'll probably have some random tokens or smaller stuff too. Populace maybe gets bigger. Maybe Operative's better, just against a deck with a lot of like Tithe-Bearer Giants and stuff. So we're taking one of the 2/2s there, and now it's Gideon's Sacrifice or Dovin's Veto. Definitely Dovin's Veto here to try to counter if they play any really scary draw spells. And we will throw this random combat trick, Steady Aim, into the sideboard. So I don't really know how I feel about this deck. I don't think I like it as much as my last deck. It's definitely a lot more dirtily. I don't feel like there's a way to win on turn 1, but if there is, we'll figure it out. But yeah, there was just not a lot of very strong draw power in that draft. So we'll see where this deck can take us. Don't expect to get anywhere near the 7-0 today, but I'll do my best. If I can make it to 3-3, then I'll be a fan. Opponent goes first, so I don't get to turn 1 Karn into God Pharaoh statue, so that's sad. So if we get comboed off immediately, just know that if we won the coin flip and we went first, opponent might not have been able to combo me unless they had to topple the statue. So let's see what happens here. Oh no, I get to kill my Karn. Oh, kill my totally lost so that I don't have any interaction. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Alright, that is one way to start things. Get rid of all my cards. Hopefully they drew nothing. Uh-oh. I mean, now they have 1 card in hand here, so if at any point they hit nothing, we could recover. Yeah, they just have a 2-2 and a 2-5. Unfortunately, I just have a 1-4. But I can block, so now it's just up to who can draw a powerful draw spell first. Oh my god. Oh my god. We're about to get destroyed. We are about to get destroyed. They can cast so many cards here. So they can now cast cards from the top of their library, but they have to pay life instead of its mana cost. So they can essentially just keep playing cards until they go to like 5. And presumably by that point, they will have drawn into some kind of powerful draw card, and then they could just start actually casting cards from their hand instead. Especially with a Burning Prophet to let them scry and see what's on top. They might be able to even just kill me this turn with enough Proliferate. Oh, looks like they're going to stop there. Which is fair enough. I mean, they did just totally lost the Teo's Light Shield, so they know I'm not going to draw anything this turn. Now I play it, they cast No Escape, and they have 10 power on board. So that is game 1. Just get destroyed. With the turn 1, discard your entire hand plays from our opponent. And now that we've seen that, it is worth noting that our deck is also capable of that, now that I think of it, because we do have double Toll of the Invasion and a Davriel Shadow Fugue. So it is possible to get just the mean opener like our opponent just got. We'll see if that'll happen. Probably not, but you never know. Alright, round 2. Can we get a win? Or can we play some cards? Alright, this is a very keepable hand. We are just going to cycle through some cards here and have a little Pharaoh out there. So opponent using Heartwarming Redemption to discard Huatli and Martyr of the Cause. And they keep these 3 cards in hand just immediately past turn. That makes me think that those might just be 3 counterspells. Should be pretty awkward. We'll see what's going on here. Can I honor the God Pharaoh? I can. They are doing nothing. Just no response. Oh, it must be No Escapes that can like only counter creatures and planeswalkers, because they've not been responding at all to my non-creature spells. So I'm going to tap my zombie instead of my Guild Globe, because my Guild Globe will just die. So that's why that's happening. If you topple an artifact, it dies. Blind Blast my 1/1. Before I can proliferate. Well, let's see if I can draw into anything here. I don't think I have anything I could do, but we'll see. Oh, wow. Yeah, I probably should have toppled the Guard Mage instead, because it's a permanent that's more likely to stay on the battlefield. So that explains why they didn't play anything. They couldn't. There had to be a creature on the battlefield to target. So unfortunately, we did lose on a card draw because we targeted our 1 toughness creature and they just booped it. So that was a bit of a punt. Probably should always topple the target on the board that's least likely to die, whatever the sturdiest thing is, just for future reference. We are going to keep the Sarkhan's Catharsis in hand. In case they play some kind of Planeswalker, we can just shoot that. And if not, there's no reason to cast this now. We can wait till they're like at 5 life to shoot them for 5. Alright, see what they got here. God Pharaoh's Statue, not bad at all. Now we actually have to spend 2 mana, as you can see on the card. Defiant Strike on the Martyr. Bond of Insight. This card's incredible in this format. We had it in our last deck, and it worked very well. They have milled our Karn and our biggest creature, unfortunately, and a couple cantrips, but our deck is chock full of them. So that's fine. And it's alright that they milled our biggest creature, because we do have creatures on board right now, while our opponent does not. However, they are about to start chaining into a very long turn with a lot of draws. So let's hope we don't get destroyed here. Here's the Heartwarming Redemption, now with a Burning Prophet on board to scry through their cards before they draw, keeping it on top. That is not a good sign. Oh, and they got Jace's Triumph 2. Very nice. They're going to loot with the Vivian's Grizzly. Well, they're going to search for Creature Planeswalker on top, see if it's there, and it looks like it is not there, so they do not draw a card off that. Alright. Totally Lost does basically nothing right now. However, they don't have a flyer, so I can just start pinging them, I guess. Like, I guess that's the play. We don't have a lot to do. Wait, it was a creature and they just chose not to do it? Kind of confused. That should... Oh, if it's not... If you don't put the card in your hand, put it on bottom. Okay, so they just put it on bottom last turn is what's happening. What's happening, I should say. So here comes Kiora. Another fantastic card for the format. And I realized that during the draft... During the draft, I was talking about how Catharsis would be an answer to random Planeswalkers like Kiora. I forgot that Kiora starts with 7 loyalty, so Catharsis is just an answer to stuff like Saheeli. Not Kiora. I am going to go ahead and put that Kiora on top before they can draw the card. Unfortunately, though, because they have Vivian's Grizzly, they can respond by using Grizzly's ability, but this does stop them from drawing 1 card at the very least. Because they can't cast Kiora at instant speed. They can still use the Grizzly to get her back, but at least we got to counter 1 card draw. Alright, here's Kiora. Please don't have another large creature in your hand. That would be bad. And we can attack Kiora with a Guard Mage plus Catharsis next turn to kill her, at the very least, because that will be 7 exactly.
Why do I love Krakens? Oh, just can't help myself.
What? Okay, she just can't kelp herself. Alright, I guess we're gonna topple the statue is what we're gonna do. I almost punted really hard and just targeted the Dam Breaker, but we're gonna literally topple the statue, and there's another Catharsis, which doesn't really do anything here. I mean, it does damage. Damage is not nothing, but I just want to kill that Kiora, which we only need 1 Catharsis to do. And then we will pass. I could also just do 10 to their face and hit them with the Guard Mage, so that's 12, they'd be at 11. But then we'd have no cards in hand.
Gonna go for a swim and cool off.
We'd probably just die over the long game. We'll still probably die this way, but at least they won't be drawing a million cards as fast. Another God Pharaoh statue. Alright, here we go. It's back. Picking up a... Ooh, Electromancer is nice in this form, and that's just going to do like a million damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 damage to a creature when it comes into play, so there goes my flyer. They didn't even need to kill my flyer because they drew a reach creature. Oh, there goes the Death Toucher. See, my opponent is smarter than me. This happens a lot. So they kill the Death Toucher, that way they can get in with the Dam Breaker, and actually just all their creatures. Now I only have a 2/2. And now they have a reach creature to block the flyer. 2 damage to my face when Turd Ogre enters, thanks to them having another large creature out. And now they've just got a bunch of stuff. And I'm about to take a lot of damage here. So I'm just gonna take it all, just save the Martyr's Chump Block for next turn. I mean, it's probably super lethal in 2 combats anyway, but I'll save my Chump Block for the last moment, just in case. Well, you know, at the very least we get to show off our coolest card that we got for Constructed here. Bam! God Eternal, look at that! Look at that beautiful animation. Alright, that's all we can do, so that is going to be good game. We are going to pass and allow them to swing us to death. Because we can block, let's see, 8 plus 5, we can block 13 damage, but then we'll still take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, we are dead on board. Opponent is going to go ahead and play it out, though. I'm just going to do 5 to my face. Just so that I don't have to keep saying okay to all this stuff. Now I can just say pass. And not worried about it. We'll see how far their combo goes. Aid the Fallen, picking up Kiora and a 3/3 Elephant? Ooh, so that's not actually big enough to trigger the Kiora to let them draw another card, but I'm guessing that none of the creatures in their grave are. Yeah, they don't have a creature large enough to allow them to draw an extra card off Kiora. So Kiora will just be here for fun. I thought I told you to auto-pass. I don't know what happened here. Oh, it's because my Guild Globe? I think it's because my Guild Globe. Give me double red. Give me red-green. There we go. There. Now will the auto-pass work? Why is my auto-pass not working? I don't know. The world may never know. We're just gonna take it all. So that is only negative 22 life for my opponent, so I am a little disappointed. In our first tournament, our opponent got us to like negative 120. I'm pretty sure that was before we could even cast a spell. So, not as impressive of a solitaire game there. But we still got ours totally handed to us, so there is that. Alright. Round 3, hopefully not the last round. I would like to not go 0-3, but with this deck, you know, I would accept that. This is a very, very good start. This allows us to place a Healy and then get a servo off everything we cast.
The world yields to art, not
And we can pick up our God Pharaoh statue to make sure that they don't combo off unless they have a topple the statue. So here we go. And we have the Guild Globe. Start drawing cards, and we have our own topple the statue. Which is ironic, that's hilarious. We're gonna use it on Saheeli, because we don't want to target any of our artifacts, or they will die. And here's a worm, and that will end the turn. And now if I want to be cute about it, I could turn our Guild Globe into a 7/6 Primordial Worm. That is the absolute most damage I could do. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. Because if I turn one of my servos into a Primordial Worm, I'm losing out on another 1/1 that could be attacking. And then Karn will turn Godpharaoh Statue into a 6/6. Right. Artifact creature's power toughness equal to its converted mana cost. So if I turn Godpharaoh Statue into a 6/6 and they double block that, they take 7, 14, 17, 18? Yeah, they take lethal, so I can do that. Now, if they have any kind of creature-based removal, that'll be bad. But
Do I have your attention now?
if they're just going to double block it, then we're fine, because they can't double block the Godpharaoh Statue and survive. Unless they can kill all my servos or worms or something. So we'll see. I'm doing it like this because I'm going to make them have it. If they don't have any kind of outs here, then they're just dead. This is my only play that I'm like, yeah, they're super dead. Alright. And there's the 1 life. To 0. Alright, so they could have actually just chumped both the worms. But, it is pretty easy to forget the secondary part of Godpharaoh's Statue. So, there you go. We did win 1 game there. We got there. That was a really sick start. We got to do the Karn plus Godpharaoh Statue thing, and we made it a 6/6, and it was relevant. It got that extra damage in there. They did have enough creatures to double block and kill it, but I had enough creatures that if they did that, they would just die immediately, so that was nice. And here we go again with Karn plus Godpharaoh Statue. Let's see if this goes anywhere. We don't have any cantrips in our hands, so it's literally going to be all about that. We'll see if that can go anywhere. They could also just no-escape me, and then I'm screwed. I don't think there's much point in casting these first. It's highly, highly unlikely that they choose to cast no-escape on a 2/2 or a 2/3. So, technically, it would be better to throw these out first, just in case they want to be dumb about it, but I feel like there was no way Karn was going to resolve if they had no escape, regardless. So they've got the Wanderer on top, which kind of does nothing against our draw, because we just got little baby creatures. Just a 2/3 and a 2/2. However, this card is very good against our deck because we have 3 copies of Sarkhan's Catharsis, which is 5 non-combat damage that just now does nothing if they have the Wanderer on board. However, it looks like they don't even want to put it on board, which is fair enough. So they can't block either of our creatures, so I'm going to attack first, and then... yeah, and then I will topple the statue. Because their Crocodile has hexproof, so I have to tap one of my creatures. So I'll wait till it's already tapped so I can get its damage in there. So we can cast a Healy here, but we're just going to wait so it doesn't just immediately die to the Crocodile. Alright, Ashiok's Skulker, a 3/5 that can't be blocked. Because they can spend their 4 mana a turn. Well, 4 of their 5 mana a turn to make sure it's unblockable. So we will place a Healy, and that is another no escape. So there's that. We're going to draw a card here. Hopefully draw like our 7/6 or something. Well, Heartwarming Redemption to draw us 1 card. Sarkhan's Catharsis. Well, if they ever cast that Wanderer, I will do that in response to them casting. But until then, I could keep this just in case for some reason they play a Planeswalker before they play the Wanderer. Just in case. Because then I could just kill the other Planeswalker. Odds are this is just going to go to their face in response to them casting the Wanderer. Alright, so we're taking 8. I could block the 5, but I'm just going to take 8 here. Probably going to lose just because their creatures are bigger. Which is sad, but we did draw like our last picks, and that'll happen. Let's not cast that. They have not cast the Wanderer yet, so we don't have to do it. Blind Blast. Alright. Blind Blast the Skulker, draw a card. Topple the statue, draw a card. See if we can get anywhere here. Alright, now I'm very glad that I did not cast the Catharsis, because we could not cast Honor the God Pharaoh if we didn't have an additional card to discard. Alright. Give the Operative another power. Guild Globe. There's another Catharsis, so now the Assault team comes in and we bash for as much as possible. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Puts them to definitely dead next turn, and we gotta hope they don't have a way to get rid of my 1/1. I could attack them for 7. That puts them at 7 life. Oh wait, what am I talking about? Are they exact lethal? If I hit them for 7, they're at 7. Oh, that's exact lethal. I'm so dumb. Thanks to Sarkhan's Catharsis, we've got exact lethal. Had they cast the Wanderer, though, we would have had to respond with a Sarkhan's Catharsis, and we wouldn't have had the card to discard, so we'll see if they have a counterspell. They could still be out of this. But if they don't, alright. Yeah, so if they just cast that Wanderer earlier, that turn would not have gone anywhere near the same way it went. I would not have had the Catharsis to discard for an Honor of the God Pharaoh, and had I chose to just keep the Catharsis in hand and have it be useless, and did everything I did there, they would have survived with 5 life, because then they would be preventing all the non-combat damage. Alright. That was a very weird game. Very weird game. So I'm guessing they were just not playing the Wanderer because they didn't want to put her out there and have her be, like, be able to be attacked so I could start hitting her with the flyer. They wanted to make sure she'd be there when I had big creatures. But unfortunately it didn't work out too well for them, because the static ability on her was actually very important to that game. Alright. This is a pretty good start. If they don't counter my Saheeli, or this, let's see. Any counters from my opponent here. They could have Lazotep Plating, give themselves hexproof, something like that. We'll see what happens here. Just waiting for a response to my Saheeli trigger from Toll of the Invasion. They're thinking about it, looking at their hand. They must have something instant speed. Blind Blast my guy? Topple the statue, my guy. I'm gonna respond with a Blind Blast. That way, if my Blind Blast resolves before their Topple the statue, they won't get to draw the card from the Topple the statue. See what happens. I am losing out on a 1/1 by doing this, but I'm okay with that. Alright, see what they got. 2 cards in hand. Death Sprout, destroy a creature, search your library for base land, put it on the battlefield. Or Vivian's Grizzly. So I'll let them keep Death Sprout. They can just kill my flyer. So this way they have to draw into something. Vivian's Grizzly lets them draw into something a little easier. Alright, and we know that they are going to draw into a 5-3. So unfortunately, their board is going to be pretty much just as good as mine. All it takes is one 5-3 Crocodile. Alright, Guild Globe, let's go. Make a servo. See how many cantrips I can draw to make more servos. There we go. Alright. If I cast Defiant Strike on anything, they can literally just respond with Death Sprout to counter it and make sure that I don't draw a card, but I do still get a servo out of it at the very least. I'm going to go ahead and attack with Silverwing now and see if that prompts the Death Sprout. It probably doesn't. Okay, it does. Alright, that is cool with me. So now I know I can Defiant Strike, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. And we get a Crawl Stinger, which is perfect. That is the answer to the Crocodile. So it is now just a top deck war. And I can start using Saheeli's -2 to get a couple damage in per turn by turning one of my 1/1s into a 2/2 Death Touch every turn. However, I can only do that twice, but it does give me something to actually do instead of just sitting here staring at the Crocodile. Can at least poke them for a couple damage. Unfortunately, that is a Row's Outburst. A pretty nice card in this format. Something I had multiple copies of in my last deck. I don't think I gave my last deck enough credit. I was worried about the fact that I didn't have many Tamiyo's Epiphanies, but I did have 2 Row's Outburst and 2 Bond of Insight, so that deck was quite good. And got a Turtle Kefnet. Probably the best card in our deck, if I'm being honest. So that is quite the draw. Unfortunately, we don't have the Death Toucher anymore, so we are just going to pass. There's Godfarer's statue to make sure that I don't super go off. That definitely makes God a Turtle Kefnet a lot weaker. They are going to send in at Saheeli. I could let her take it all just to make sure I can do 9 damage to them. It's almost definitely worth it to just block, though, because I'll probably be casting a non-creature spell every turn. Honor the God Pharaoh. If you reveal it, copy it, and the copy costs 2 less to cast. Yeah. If I copy that, it lets me discard the actual one and actually cast the spell. Otherwise, I couldn't cast it at all, so we'll do that. Alright, here we go. Davriel's Shadow Fugue, which does nothing, and I topple the statue for the God Pharaoh statue. But the scoop has already happened, so it doesn't matter. But that would have been funny. That would have been the second time we toppled a statue, God Pharaoh statue. And that is what I was talking about earlier when I was saying that that is the biggest problem with God Pharaoh statue, is that topple the statue is just such a high pick. Or it's not like an insanely high pick, but it's a decently high pick. Well, this pack right here is incredible for Omniscience Draft. We've got Row's Outburst and a Tithebearer Giant, both fantastic cards for the format, as well as Davriel's Shadow Fugue, which is quite nice. But yeah, that's just our random weekly win pack there. Let's get back into the draft. We did it! We somehow did it! I didn't think we were going to make it, but we've made it to 3 wins, which is what I said I'd be happy with if we go 3-3. So that means that now is the time where we definitely lose our 3rd game. Just even it all out to the perfect 3-3. This deck has definitely done better than I thought it would. Just the main problem is it's definitely not strong enough to just combo out and win. But it's strong enough to combo out and get a few creatures on board. You know, get multiple cards on board. Which is actually pretty weak for this format. Luckily, though, we've run into some other decks that were along the same power level that we've managed to eke out the wins there. Go ahead and topple our Primordial Worm. That way, if they have a Blind Blast, they can't kill our 1/1, because that's how they got us before. Alright. That's all we got. What do you got, opponent? You got double Tamiyo's Epiphany? Because if so, I will gladly give you my third loss. There it is. Here you go, opponent. Alright, starting off with a Vivian's Grizzly. Gonna see if that top is a creature or planeswalker. Got something good? Something cool? Nothing on the top, which means it'll go to the bottom, and here comes a Primordial Worm of their own. Bond of Flourishing, looking for a permanent from the top 3 cards and gaining 3 life. Picking up Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Well, that's pretty fantastic. They get to draw 1 card per turn with the +1, and mill somebody 2 cards. Probably self-mill? Oh no, they're gonna mill me. I was gonna say, in a format like this, Jace, Wielder of Mysteries is a fantastic win condition. If I just had one of those in this deck, I think this deck would be a lot better, because that makes all of these other just random cantrips so much better, because then you're just actively cantripping towards something, and that something that you're cantripping towards is milling yourself. Now you're just trying to mill yourself with Jace. So, yeah, very cool card. And it is going to get them a Challenger Troll, which makes it so their large creatures can only be blocked by 1 creature total. So I can't double block their big stuff. We do have double Sarkhan's Catharsis, that's cute. We'll go ahead and Catharsis Jace. Get him out of here. But it's not looking good. They've got some very big creatures, and I can only deal with 1 of them. Can block the Primordial Worm with my Primordial Worm. And everything after that is just chump blocks. So Grizzly getting them in another card here, a Bulwark Giant. So yeah, Grizzly is definitely better than I gave it credit for. It's still not very good in our deck because we don't have a lot of creatures, but it would probably be something I probably should have picked at some point in the draft, just because I forgot that you can actually use that ability during your turn and your opponent's turn. So you get 2 shots to try to draw into a creature planeswalker per turn. Alright, Blind Blast. Does not do a lot here, but I should cantrip. I'll just toss it on the Primordial Worm. If I toss it on Grim Initiate, it just turns into another 1/1, so there's not much point in that. So we'll just use it on the Primordial Worm. Just so I'm putting it on something that's definitely not going to die before it resolves. And they are going to veto my Honor the God Pharaoh to make sure I can't draw into any sort of answers here. And there is a Tithe Bearer Giant for our opponent, which will be another gigantic creature that also draws them a card. So it's potentially even more giant creatures. Ooh, wow, yeah, their deck is very heavily built around Vivian's Grizzly. So that is another thing that's worth mentioning, is that Vivian's Grizzly, if you pick it up early in the draft, you can really build around it and get just a whole bunch of value. Normally, the vast majority of the cards that they've played are just not actually that good, because they're just like random creatures. But you could just have a bunch of random creatures, and Vivian's Grizzly makes them a lot better. So yeah, like Bulwark Giant, Lazotep Behemoth, Grim Initiate. Those are all just like whatever in this format. But with Vivian's Grizzly, just getting more creatures to be able to cycle through is actually pretty powerful. So I am getting kind of destroyed here. I don't know why I would chump block the 1/3 instead of the 6/5. Let's go ahead and chump block the 6/5 there. Here's Cyclops Electromancer to finish off the Teo's Light Shield. And there's Karn. Well, I am more than dead on board, but we will do it anyway. Do our fancy shenanigans. Bam. There it is. The God Pharaoh got his statue. And that is how we'll end the game. Let's see if they top deck a Topple the Statue, just to end this draft in the most perfect way I could think of. Topple the Statue. Do it. No Topple the Statue. Just well over lethal combat damage. That is all. Alright, so -12. The heights that we got to yesterday, it seems like will not be will not be replayed today, unfortunately. No negative 120-something games. As cool as that was. But thank you all so much for watching. That is 3 wins and 3 losses. If you are a fan of my content or you just liked this video at all, definitely stop back by the channel. Tuesday, July 1st, 1 p.m. Central, all the way into the evening and hopefully well into the night, I will be streaming alongside many other live streamers the Core Set 2020 special preview streaming event. It's basically a pre-release for the Core Set, so I'm very excited about that. I'll be playing a lot of Sealed and probably some random stupid brews in Constructed, because I'm not the greatest Constructed player, so I'll just be doing stupid little combo-y stuff if I ever get bored of the Sealed. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.